Self-care is how you take your power back. Lila Delia. Welcome to Living at Your Finest podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Babs. I'm a triple board certified family, obesity, and lifestyle medicine physician, and I am the founder of Living at Your Finest Wellness, a holistic direct primary care practice. Did you know that 80% of lifestyle-related chronic diseases within our communities are preventable, with poor diet being the primary culprit? Now, contrary to what we thought, that it was our unfortunate genes, the good news is that we can make changes together to improve our health and quality of life. So that's what this podcast is all about. The Living at Your Finest podcast is devoted to helping families to live at their finest well-being using a holistic approach with a healthy lifestyle to nourish and flourish as a whole, vibrant, and healthy champion. So join me and my guests as we share transformational and sustainable skill sets from our health and wellness journey to support you and your families in achieving optimal well-being. Ready to live at your finest? Well, let's get to it. Hello. Greetings, Living at Your Finest health champions. Welcome back to the Living at Your Finest podcast show. Thanks for showing up today. I hope you and yours are all doing well. I am super excited about this episode because it is goodie packed with strategies on how to manage stress. Since we all live in this stressful world, it doesn't look like we can escape it. We just need to learn how to manage it. So my lovely, beautiful guest, wellness lifestyle coach, YaaAstar, she will share her expertise on what stress is and what it isn't. She's a living testimony of how to stay in control of her emotions and just being on top. So I'm so honored that she said yes to be on our podcast. The topics she will be discussing today will be on motivation, consistency, and accountability. So without further ado, let's get started. Let me give a brief introduction. So YaaAstar is a wellness, lifestyle coach that works with Starbucks women who feel overwhelmed and underappreciated and wanting to prioritize their overall well-being. I mean, hey, amen to that. So welcome to you, Miss Astar. Thank you so very much for joining us today at the Living at Your Finest podcast show.
Thank you so much for having me. I am super excited, and it is such an honor to be on your podcast. And I am so ready to talk about, managing your stress and really just having, quote unquote, somewhat of that balance in your life.
Oh, absolutely. So I always like to hear just a little bit of background, right? How did you get to that place where you're like, yes, I figured it out? Because a lot of us are still trying to figure it out. So we want to hear your background story. How did it all begin? Can you please share with us?
Sure, absolutely. So it really all began when I first moved here to Atlanta, Georgia. So I was going through some things. I just finished breast cancer treatment. And at that time, it was 2018 and the economy tanked. And so I felt like I was well on my way up, and it seemed like I was well on my way down. And so it was just, I was in such a recovery period and such in a scarce mindset mode as well. And so I was trying to recover just the life that I had coming to Atlanta, Georgia from Maryland. And so that was, paying off debt, going back to school to get my master's, and just basically getting back into fitness for myself. And so during that journey, I became very ambitious, and I just saw the results that I was getting. And so I was like, oh, I like this. I like this. And when I say the results I was getting, I was talking about in my career, I was definitely well up the ranks on the corporate ladder. The results I was getting in my fitness, I did 2 bodybuilding competitions and I placed. I did a marathon and I did very well at that. And then also too, just in my social life, I was at the height of just being, it seemed like almost like a socialite where I always had somewhere to go every single weekend. I was also traveling and I was making great money. I would say say I was at the top of my game. But then all of a sudden, so that was in 2012. And then all of a sudden, because I kept on moving and moving and moving and moving and not taking a break, I started all of a sudden started experiencing literally my first panic attack back in 2015. I didn't know what it was. I would never forget. I was over at my friend's house and I just, and I just got off the phone with work. At that time, I was working for Dell and Dell SecureWorks, and I didn't know what was happening. I literally felt like I was dying. And I just can remember I just started breathing heavy and I felt like I couldn't breathe and I just started crying and I just all of a sudden my body just started to fall to the floor. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. And it took a while for me to recover. So you would think, oh, I would go to the hospital and find out what's going on and deal with that. I said, no, I just brushed it off. But then I started continuously getting those panic attacks. It gotten so bad to the point where gotten so bad I had one in my car while I was driving. It got bad where literally it felt like a stroke like where I was stuttering. I felt like I was losing feeling in my arm and I just was just crying uncontrollably. And I just felt like I couldn't breathe. And I'll never forget, I walked into my doctor's office and he said, and this was in 2017. So mind you, I am still pursuing these things because I think that I'm supposed to be or represent something on the outside. Meanwhile, I was killing myself on the inside. And I'll never forget that day in 2017, my doctor said, "Yeah, if you do not do something, you will die like your mother." And my mother had a brain aneurysm. And so that's when I had to take a look at my lifestyle. So I was going after what I thought I was supposed to be, the successful African American woman in Atlanta, Georgia, who is very well educated and who's doing very well in life. But although I looked like I had it together, I actually was falling apart and breaking down on the inside. I had eating disorders. I had body dysmorphia where I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. And so therefore I wouldn't eat. There was a time where sleeping every other night was normal. That's not normal when you go to sleep every other night. I was like, oh, it's okay. I'll just go to sleep tomorrow night. Therefore, it led me to, I had to make a choice for me. And that choice was either I can continually climb up this corporate ladder that for whatever it is that I want for myself or what I want to seem like is achievable, the reflection, or I can start taking care of myself and I can go a different route. And it took me a while and I cried and I said, okay, I'm going to go a different route. And that route is to care for myself and just to live life just in a very healthy way. And for me, that healthy way was allowing myself to rest more, allowing myself to not eat on the go, but actually prepare meals and eat the meals that I prepare. And actually not be self-sabotaging, spending time to nurture myself with the words that I say to myself. And that's what led me to me coaching. So I transitioned from I was a personal trainer to a nutrition coach to now where I'm a wellness life coach because I want to help women who are like me. They're very ambitious, they're very driven, they're goal oriented, and they want this lifestyle, they want this thing, but at what cost? And so what I want to do is actually help those women to get that rest that they need and to prioritize themselves. It's nothing wrong with that. It's so many of them who are mothers who, are balancing their marriage, their kids, their work, their social life, but then they put themselves at the end. They put themselves last. And so I am here to help you put yourself first. So that way you can be your best and show up your best for everyone else.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I was just getting goosebumps as you were speaking. Everything you were saying. I mean, it's just the life that we live, right? We have this facade. We have this notion that this is the way it should be. And it always comes at a cost. So unless you really sit back and you have that true awakening, you're still present because you had your first 2015. In 2017, you were still pushing through until you actually had that deep conversation with you. And I'm sorry to hear about your mom passing passing from a brain aneurysm, but I'm sure she just, her heart will want her child to be at rest and at peace, right? There's just nothing that you can compare the value of life. So I'm so glad that you're in
Yeah.
this space and you're helping women, because we're really hardcore. We're difficult people to pass through, because
Mhm.
I had, I mean, similar in some way. Mine was the blood pressure issue, and that was why we connected. I was so glad
Yeah.
to have met you at a business meeting. I just felt our hearts joined, just, with similar stories. And my doctor actually sat next to my bedside and told me that they had done all the tests. My blood pressure was 220 over 120. Everything was negative, and he sat by my bedside. And I don't think he knew I was a doctor, but he said, if you don't figure out what is stressing you out, you are going to have blood pressure for a long time and you might die of a stroke. And I was like, what's he talking about? I mean, what do you mean stress? I had no idea. I mean, even being a doctor, I did not know. I thought it was just the foods that we ate that gave us blood pressure. I had no idea that stress correlates. And sure enough, I proved it in my own life, because after being on blood pressure for 3 months, blood pressure medicine, and it didn't even control my blood pressure until I got to the root cause, which was the stress and the
Mhm.
stories that we tell ourselves. We want to be all that and everything at what
Yeah.
cost. So I love that you just shared with us.
Yeah, and the thing too that I wanna share, just to be completely transparent, I wasn't doing all of that for me as far as going after the career, going having all these things, this look that I was supposed to have. I wasn't doing it for me, although I thought I was actually doing it for others.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so when you look at me, that's why so many people did not know that was struggling, because I looked like I had it together.
Mm,
Well,
mm,
that was the point, for me to
yeah.
look like I've got it together. And meanwhile, I'm suffering on the inside. And then there's
Uh,
also the cultural aspect of it.
yes, yes,
Oh, I've
yes.
got to please, family members or this person or that person within.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
because of the pressure, it
Yeah.
led to pressure on myself, that led
Mm-hmm.
pressure on my body, which led pressure in my mind, which led pressure on my heart and my
Yeah.
spirit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
therefore, then also too, the thoughts of I'm not good enough. Guess what? Because I don't think I'm not good enough, or because I believe what I have is not good enough, I'm gonna keep on going and
Going to
going
keep on
and
going.
going
You're
and
going to
going.
lose out on sleep. You're going to do all those things because you feel that you haven't arrived and you haven't given yourself permission and grace. So I love that. Oh my goodness. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's this thing quote that I saw, that the key is not to prioritize your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. So if your priority is self-care and self-love, you will put yourself first, like you
Mhm,
said. So
mhm.
would like to hear a little bit more about how that journey began. So I love that you're a wellness life coach. Can you share with us? I mean, I know it was a time and a process to get you to that mindset, but it started with your mind. So can you share with others? They're hearing you. They're like, yes, that's me. I need that help. Where would you encourage them to begin based on your experience? How did you get yourself and get comfortable with, you know, releasing that burden that
Right. Well, absolutely. Like I'm going to share with you, like I shared with a client earlier this week. It's either you voluntarily rest or you will be forced to rest.
to rest?
Your choice.
Yes.
And that's the choice.
Yeah.
So how it really started for me, I was going, then I had a double mastectomy because there was a scare that the cancer was coming back. So guess what?
Mm,
Because I didn't choose to rest, and not to say, that was more before, because I didn't choose to rest when I was supposed to, guess what? I was forced to rest. So now make a choice.
yeah.
Sometimes you're forced to rest because you're getting sick, you can't remember things, you're getting tired, your lack of energy, you're driving through the drive-through for food. And so therefore it becomes to the point where you are now forced to rest. Here's the start, like I shared with a client this morning, is just choose one day out of this week to be intentional for rest. Now you choose how you want to rest.
How you want to rest.
Choose how
Mhm.
you want. You can rest either by taking a nap, you can rest either by taking a walk, you can rest either by just going to the coffee shop by yourself, having a nice, Starbucks, coffee, and just reading a book. You can also rest by going to bed early.
Mm,
There's so many different ways to rest. And so what rest looks like for me, especially if I'm coming off a busy slammed schedule, and I may not think, well, I don't have time, because as soon as you say you don't have time, that means you need to make the time. And so
mm,
how can we make the time? Even today, take at least 5 minutes. I share a lot of different techniques on my LinkedIn profile, different ways how you can just take a break. You can even pause for at least 30 seconds and do breath work. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. That's 30 seconds. Or you could just take 5 minutes. Push away from the desk, or push away from the phone, whatever it is. But if you can be intentional and choosing and saying, you know what, I am going to choose Saturday morning as my time of rest. I'm going to go for a pedicure, I'm going to go for a massage, I'm going to go get my hair done. I'm going to choose that as my time. It's not my kids' time, it's not my husband's time, it's not my job's time, it's not my client's time, it's my time. And the sooner that you recognize that you need to honor your my time, guess what, it starts getting a place on the list, higher on the list.
Thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode. My goal on this podcast is to empower, educate, and encourage you to take actionable steps to triumph at living at your finest, body, mind, and spirit. Of note, the information provided here is for educational purposes only and does not substitute as medical advice. Please discuss your healthcare needs with your licensed medical professional. If you are in need of a compassionate and comprehensive holistic physician or know someone who is, please reach out through my website, livewellness.com, for a meet and greet. It will be my honor to talk to you. Are we connected on social media yet? I share more in-depth content on best practices to ensure that you live at your finest daily. So please join me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Living at Your Finest Wellness, where we can learn together and stay connected. Lastly, please subscribe to iTunes if you have not done so already, and share the podcast within your circle of influence. An extra step? Leave a review and let me know what topics or discussions you would like to hear more of. Thanks in advance. It is always a thing of joy to hear from you. Now, let's get back to today's episode. Being intentional. So start there. So listeners, you've heard it. You gotta make it intentional. Because if you don't schedule it, it ain't happening. It's not gonna happen.
And if you don't schedule it, guess what? You're gonna find yourself burnt out. You know how you're going to find yourself burnt out? You may find yourself crying. You may find yourself snapping at people. You may, like I said, you may find yourself forgetting things. You may, and so be careful of, okay, your response to people, because now you're starting to burn out. You're starting to get stressed. And so how do you manage that? You've got to scale back some way, somehow. Now, it's not to say that you still can't go for what you're going for, but also you want to be mindful of, okay, I have to rest so I can be resilient.
Yes.
To continue.
Yes, because you can't pour out of an empty cup, right? So absolutely, I like that. Yeah. So I'm curious, how do you respond to people that say, yeah, but I have so much to do. The expectation is this. People think I'm selfish. There's just a lot to do. The rest is for the wicked. I think, is that what they say? Rest is for the yeah, something they say. Rest is for the dead, or you will rest when we die, or stuff like that.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, not rest for the weekend. The other way around. They'll say, "Oh no, sleep is for fools," and all of that. Rest is for. So, how would you say to your clients or people listening? I want to do it. I want to prioritize myself, but every time I do, I feel guilty because people make me feel as if there's so much to do. You don't care about me. Stuff like that. How do you navigate through those waters?
Sure. And so I would challenge them with, is it that people make you feel guilty, or is it that you feel guilty? That is the question. Is it really the people that make you feel guilty, or is it that you feel guilty?
Yeah.
And if you feel guilty, for what reason? And I'm also going to challenge you this. What are you working so hard for? What are you working towards? What is it that causes you to say, well, I've gotta work, I've got to do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, what causes you to say, I got to? Because here's the deal. There's a lot of surface answers. Well, I've got to for the kids, for the family, for this and that, and this, that, and the other. But there's a deeper reason. And so I am going to, as your coach, challenge you. Well, what's the deeper reason? And once we uncover the deeper reason, now we can work from there. And now we can start implementing ways for you to rest, ways for you to manage your stress, ways for you to feel appreciated and not overwhelmed. And even if that appreciation only comes from you. So it's really important to you just ask yourself, why am I working so hard? Ask yourself that 7 times, and you're going to come to the answer by response 5 or 6. Oh, wow. You'll ask yourself why.
7 times. Wow.
Ask yourself 7 times, why am I working so hard? And
Yeah.
for some, some may say, oh, because, I want to make sure I provide for my kids. Oh, because I want to make sure I have enough money in the bank. Oh, because I want to do well. Oh, because I don't want to wind up or end up like my parents. So that's the reason why you're working so hard, because you don't want to end up like your parents. All right. Now we've got somewhere to start. And it's really important. So that's just an example, asking yourself why. That is the basis of every single thing that you are doing or not doing, is asking yourself that
Why?
why and
Yeah.
getting that answer. And
Right.
so it's really important to really navigate through that answer, and don't be ashamed.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess that would be the motivation, the why is what tailors why you're doing what you're doing. So that would be the motivation factor because you want to have longevity. You want to live a what, they say don't count the moments, but the meaning behind the moments, right? It's not how many of them you have, but the meaning behind them. So that definitely cultivates why we do what we do. Now, when it comes to the consistency and the accountability, can you speak a little bit about that? So they start off, they do really well. I mean, I must be honest myself, after my journey, just having that stressful period in my life and learning how to de-stress,
Mhm.
journaling, deep breathing, all the things, I have to be conscious about it because sometimes I might default back to my old ways and I very quickly retract back and I'm like, nah, no, we're not going down that road. So consistency certainly matters and accountability. So how do you encourage your clients or anyone listening right now to stay the course, right? Because we've never arrived. It's a lifelong journey, right? So it's
Oh,
something that
absolutely. And as soon as you think you have arrived, and I share this even with, my coach
yeah.
yesterday, is that although I'm continuously seeking something, I will always want more. So regardless how much you think that achieving that one particular goal, you're always going to want more because you're ambitious and you're driven.
Yeah,
So here's
yeah.
the thing. We start off with, okay, we find the motivation, but understand that it's inspiration. So inspiration, we want to find, okay, what it's on the inside, what inspires you? What's going to inspire you to manage your stress? What's going to inspire you to find rest, regardless whatever that rest looks like? What's going to inspire you? And then you can go on the outside reaching for those things that's going to motivate you
Right.
with the inspiration to for that rest. Next, what's going to help you? You want the consistency, but with that consistency, what are you committed to doing on a monthly, weekly, or daily basis? The rest. So that is very important. So what are you committed to doing consistently, whether it's monthly, weekly, or daily? Next, the accountability. What action steps are you going to do to manage your stress? Is that getting a coach to help guide you along your journey? Is that going to a therapist? Is that, spa day? Is that taking a vacation? Is it a girls? What is that action step that you're going to do? So it's really important to really look at, okay, what is going to be my inspiration so I can find the motivation? What am I willing to commit to and be consistent at it? And what is going to what action steps did I need to take in order to hold me accountable? And this is what's going to help you manage your stress. And also, too, with that being said, is that it's going to take time. For me, it took years to be mindful of like, oh, wait a minute. So I always take a pause. Just like even for me, I didn't rest well this week. So I had a choice. I can either still go to the gym and be tired and pass out while spinning, or I could go run and pass out while running, or I can choose this morning to sleep in and get more rest. Now, before I would have been like, "Oh, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to run. That's what I got to do. I got to do it."
Yeah.
But I chose to take care of me, and
Mhm.
so therefore we slept in.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in that because you listen to your body and you give it what it needs. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And you said such a key word, shame. That
Mhm.
is so key, shame. Because maybe some reason why some people may feel guilty or they may feel like, others may try to guilt them is because there's shame.
Mhm.
If I stop doing this, I will be ashamed. Or if I, try to do that, I will be shamed.
Yeah.
But what is there to be, shamed of?
Yeah, right, exactly. Everybody's life is different. Everybody has their own story, their own journey to play. So yeah, absolutely. I love it. Thank you. This is
Yes,
fantastic. Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, now it's time to know you as a person. We've learned about what you do, your expertise, your journey, but we want to take a deeper dive. So if you are ready to play this 1 second response with me, we can get
Yeah.
started. All right. Well, I just have three quick questions for you, and then we'll give you an opportunity to share with the listeners how they can get in touch with your wonderful self and your goodness and all your offerings. So, the first question, describe yourself in one word.
Ecstatic.
It's that. I love it. Nice, 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 nice. All right. What is your most favorite or one of your favorite affirmation?
It's not an option.
Ooh, okay. It's not an option. I like that one. It's not an option. Cool. Well, last question here. What is something that, I mean, people very close to you would know it, but just generally speaking, I mean, we know that a bodybuilder and all the other things. You like to physical activity, personal trainer, but what is something that we don't know about you? Something, interesting, funny, whichever you like to put it.
Okay. Let's see here. Something you don't know about me. I love reading. I love reading. I'm an avid reader. So I that's one of my things is I really, really do enjoy reading. One of my favorite things, if a lot of people don't know, one of my favorite things is when I do travel, I always make sure I get a cup of coffee and I buy a magazine and I buy the Wall Street Journal. And that's something that I read when so that's always my thing. I've got to get like a home type of magazine, like
Okay.
kitchen, bath, home type of
Nice.
magazine, and
Nice.
then reading the Wall Street Journal. So
Oh, cool. That's cool. Very good.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Well, it's been wonderful chatting with you. I'd like
Thank
to just
you.
find out how we can stay in touch. If you don't mind, share with us what big things you have ahead, how people can get in touch with you, just offerings. And yeah, I would like to learn about that. And I'll certainly put it in the show art as well, in the show notes.
Thank you so much. Well, again, thank you so much. I really, really, really appreciate being a part of, this podcast and just being able to share my experience, my strength through my journey. And hopefully this gives hope to your listeners and they can find more about me, but definitely find out more about the work that I do and how to manage their stress and how to feel less overwhelmed, but, feeling more appreciated. They can go to LinkedIn and I am YaaAstar, and that's spelled YaaAstar. They can find me there, or they can also find me on Instagram. It's Yaa_Astar, and that's YaaAstar. You'll find me there. And I look forward to, just really hearing from people, definitely sharing their experience. Definitely feel free to reach out to me for anything. And of course, you can also schedule, I call it me time call with me. And that's my link, which is my website is www.YaaAstar, YaaAstar.com. And you'll also see some testimonials of some of the clients that I've worked with.
Yes, and she's doing fabulous things in the community. So we want to
Yeah,
schedule that time with her for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely. And I am doing a retreat. That's what I'm doing in July. So far, I'm doing a speaking engagement in July. So I'm working with a travel company and speaking
Nice.
to their group on just health and wellness. I'm really looking forward to
Awesome.
that.
Yeah, I would like to learn more about that. So I'll definitely check
Yeah,
out your website. So thank you
absolutely.
so much. Yeah, Star. I love your name. It's so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank
So thank you
you.
for spending time with us today and for just dropping all those nuggets, a reminder to all of us that, yeah, having that experience that you had, oh my goodness, thank God that you're still here. Because a lot of people find their way out of this world just going through all of that, right? So it's true. Brain aneurysm, just name it. So I'm glad that you're here to share the story and help women to understand that it's okay. It's okay. We don't have to put all those pressures in ourselves, and we can actually fill our cup first and have the freedom to, evolve and
Yeah.
do the things that we need to do and not feel the burden and the stress
Right,
altogether.
because one of the things I definitely want to just leave with yourself, myself, and your listeners is that we are so deserving of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We are so deserving of the rest, the rejuvenating. We are so deserving of it. And if
Yeah.
we can just let that sit, whenever you're feeling stressed, whenever you feel like, well, I should, or if you find yourself saying to yourself, well, I should do that. I'm deserving
Yeah.
of rest.
Yes, I love it. I couldn't have said it better because that's why I always say that's why we deserve to live at our finest, right? We deserve to live
Yes.
at our finest by being whole, vibrant, and healthy. We deserve it because we're worth it. So yeah,
Yes,
put it
absolutely. And
put it into
believing in it.
perspective.
Yes.
All
Absolutely.
right. So to our listeners, thank you so much for hanging out with myself and YaaAstar. It was wonderful. I hope that as you've heard with your head, right, that you have accepted in your heart and with your hands, you will go implement all the things that you've heard today. Certainly, we've already said that we're all deserving, right? So don't stress yourself. Just pick one thing, as Yaa has said. Just pick one thing. Start there. Give yourself grace, and just allow yourself to evolve. And of course, share this episode with others. And just again, remember that we're here to strengthen each other. So until next time, I want you to take care and God bless.